Most boxers never realize this, but kickboxers are training their bodies in ways that quietly give them a brutal edge. What separates kickboxers isn't just kicks, it's hidden training habits that transform power, balance, and endurance in ways boxing rarely touches. Boxing at its core is beautiful in its simplicity. Hands, head movement, footwork, timing. Everything revolves around the upper body. Power comes from rotation, yes, but the focus stays high. Shoulders burn, arms pump, lungs scream, and that's the battlefield most boxers live in every day. Kickboxing flips that whole idea on its head. From day one, kickboxers are forced to think in full body terms. Every strike pulls from the ground up. Hips snap, legs load and unload. Core tension decides whether a kick lands clean or leaves you off balance and exposed. You don't get to cheat by leaning on just your hands. If your lower body isn't synced with your upper body, you feel it immediately and usually painfully. That's why kickboxing gyms sound different. You hear feet slapping mats, chins cracking pads, breath leaving bodies in sharp bursts. Fighters aren't just throwing strikes, they're managing balance, range, posture, and recovery all at once. Miss one piece and everything collapses. This constant demand for total body synchronization builds athletes, not specialists. It's the reason kickboxers tend to move differently, more grounded, more fluid, harder to knock off rhythm. And once you understand that, the so-called training hacks stop looking like tricks. They're survival tools. And this is where most people watching completely underestimate what's really happening in kickboxing gyms. For pro kickboxers, mobility isn't a warm-up, it is the training. Every session starts and ends with hips opening, ankles rotating, knees tracking cleanly, spine twisting and untwisting, like it's being tuned. Not once a week, not when something feels right, every single day. Because if one joint locks up, everything downstream pays the price. Watch a high-level kickboxer shadow box and you'll see it immediately. Hips turn freely, weight shifts smoothly. Kicks don't look forced, they whip. That doesn't come from flexibility alone. It comes from joints that can move without resistance, absorb force, and snap back into position instantly. Now compare that to most boxing routines. Plenty of road work, plenty of bag rounds, some footwork drills, but lower body mobility, often rushed, skipped, or treated like optional stretching. Ankles stay stiff, hips get tight, the spine moves only as much as punching demands, and it works until it doesn't. Here's the part people miss. Mobility isn't about looking loose, it's about power transfer. When your hips rotate freely, punches travel faster. When ankles flex properly, balance stays intact under pressure. When the spine moves smoothly, the body doesn't fight itself. And injury prevention, that's the silent benefit nobody talks about. Mobile joints don't tear as easily. They adapt, they recover, they last longer. How hard can you really hit if half your body is fighting against the movement? And once you realize this, the next hack hits even harder. Now here's where things stop being theoretical and start getting uncomfortable. Kickboxers don't just train legs to move, they train legs to hit, to absorb impact, to stay solid when someone is trying to sweep, kick, or crash into them. Their leg strength isn't about looking fast on a ladder drill, it's about surviving chaos. Every kick thrown demands explosive power from the ground up. Every checked kick requires bone-on-bone stability. Every stance reset depends on legs that can fire, stop, and fire again without hesitation. That's why kickboxers load their legs differently, squat with intent, polymetrics with balance, single leg work that exposes weaknesses fast. Boxing footwork, by comparison, is efficient but narrow. It's built for angles, pivots, and bursts, not for absorbing force through one leg while the other is airborne. And that's the key difference. Boxing legs move. Kickboxing legs work. Here's the twist most people never expect. Stronger legs don't just make kicks harder, they make punches nastier. Power doesn't start in the shoulders, it starts on the floor. When legs drive harder, the kinetic chain fires cleaner. Hips snap faster, the core stays stable, hands arrive with bad intentions. That's why kickboxers often look deceptively calm upstairs while everything downstairs is doing violence. Their base is doing the heavy lifting. So think about it. If your legs can't generate force, absorb impact, and stay balanced under stress, is your striking really complete? And this is the part that separates fighters who look good from fighters who stay dangerous when everything goes wrong. Kickboxers don't train balance in calm, controlled moments. They train it while getting hit, while throwing kicks, while checking kicks, while landing awkwardly and having to fire back instantly. Balance isn't a static skill for them. It's something that has to survive impact. Every session forces stance adjustments. 1 second they're planted, the next they're on one leg throwing a kick, then immediately absorbing force and resetting under pressure. Weight transfer becomes instinct. Single leg control isn't optional, it's survival. Lose balance for half a second and you're open. You see this clearly in fights. A kickboxer can eat a kick, stumble slightly, and still counter. That doesn't come from luck. It comes from training where balance is constantly challenged, attacked, and stressed until it holds up under chaos. Boxers, on the other hand, are rarely forced into that kind of imbalance. Their feet stay grounded, weight shifts are subtle, and when they're pressured, both feet are usually on the floor. It's efficient for boxing, but it doesn't prepare you for moments when your base is compromised mid-attack. And that's the danger zone kickboxers live in every round, because kickboxers train for that exact moment. And just when you think you've read the rhythm, kickboxers break it. Punch-kick combinations are where kickboxing really shines. A jab isn't just a jab, it's a setup. A cross isn't the end, it's a doorway. Hands draw the guard high, eyes lock onto punches, and then a kick comes screaming in from an angle you least expect. Kickboxers drill this relentlessly. Punch into kick, kick into punch, high to low, fast to heavy. Every combination is designed to disrupt timing and scramble reactions. Defenders don't get a clean pattern to read. The moment they adjust to hands, the legs attack. When they brace for kicks, the punches snap back in. That unpredictability is the real weapon. Boxing combinations, no matter how beautiful, live in a narrower lane. Head, body, head. Angles and tempo shifts, yes, but everything stays above the waist. Defenders know where the danger is coming from. There's comfort in that limitation. Kickboxing removes that comfort completely. The rhythm never settles. Timing breaks constantly. Fighters are forced to defend multiple levels at once, and mental fatigue sets in fast. That's when mistakes happen. And here's the scary part. These combos aren't thrown wild. They're clean, practiced, and intentional. That's what makes them so hard to deal with. And this is where defense stops being comfortable. Kickboxers don't get the luxury of guarding one lane. Attacks come high, mid, and low, sometimes all within the same second. Hands, knees, shins, feet. Defense isn't just blocking, it's constant decision-making under pressure. A kickboxer's guard has to think. Hands stay high, elbows protect the body, and legs stay ready to check kicks at any moment. One delayed reaction and a shin slams into the thigh, deadening the leg. Miss a body check and your gas tank starts leaking fast. Everything matters. Distance management becomes critical. Kickboxers learn to live just outside danger, then crash in or slide out before the next strike lands. Reaction speed isn't trained in isolation. It's trained while absorbing feints, fakes, and real impact. Defense becomes layered, instinctive, and brutally efficient. Now, look at boxing defense. It's refined, sharp, and highly specialized, but it exists mostly on one plane. Head movement, parries, shoulder rolls. The legs aren't being attacked directly. The body shots come from fists, not shins. There's no need to check kicks or brace for sudden low-line attacks. That's the gap. Boxers aren't trained to split attention between hands and legs at the same time. Kickboxers are forced to do it from day one. That's why their defensive awareness feels wider, more alert, more reactive. And here's where real pros separate themselves from gym warriors. Elite kickboxers don't spar to win rounds in the gym. They spar to solve problems. Some rounds are light and technical, focused purely on timing and distance. Others increase intensity just enough to test reactions without turning it into a brawl. Every round has a purpose. This isn't about avoiding contact, it's about controlling it. Fighters experiment. They miss on purpose. They test angles. They see what happens when they're slightly late or slightly off balance. That's how IQ is built. Ego-driven sparring looks different. Every exchange is a statement. Every hit demands payback. The pace climbs, form breaks down, and damage piles up. It feels tough, but it steals time, health, and clarity. Kickboxing gyms that produce long-lasting fighters understand this. Smart sparring sharpens instincts without dulling the body. Fighters leave sessions tired, not broken, confident, not reckless. The payoff shows up under lights. Timing is cleaner. Reactions are calmer. Decisions come faster because they've already lived those moments without panic. Careers last longer this way. Performance stays consistent. And when the fight gets chaotic, these fighters don't rush, they read. And this is where conditioning stops being about lungs alone and starts becoming about survival. Kickboxers don't gas out just because their arms are tired or their legs burn. Everything is working at once, punching, kicking, checking, clinching, resetting. Upper and lower body fatigue stack on top of each other, and the body has to keep firing anyway. That's why their conditioning looks different. Roadwork and bag rounds still exist, but they're layered with movements that force the whole system to stay online. Kicks thrown late in rounds, punches fired off tired legs, drills that demand breathing control while muscles are already flooded. The goal isn't just endurance, it's efficiency under exhaustion. Breathing becomes a weapon, sharp exhales on strikes, controlled recovery between exchanges. Kickboxers learn how to calm their heart rate while their legs are screaming. Because panic wastes energy fast. Every unnecessary movement costs power. Boxing conditioning, while brutal in its own way, usually separates fatigue zones. Arms burn, lungs burn, legs carry you. But they're rarely asked to strike with full force over and over. The body gets broken. It doesn't even realize it's getting them. Kickboxing doesn't allow that luxury. When fatigue hits everywhere at once, sloppy technique gets punished immediately. That's why kickboxers train to stay compact, relaxed, and precise even when tired. Muscular efficiency isn't a buzzword. It's the difference between landing clean and getting countered hard. And this isn't a statement about boxing being flawed. Boxing is an art, a sharp one, but it's also specialized, and specialization always comes with blind spots. Kickboxing simply exposes them. Imagine a boxer with better hip mobility, punches snap faster, defense stays tighter under pressure, or add real leg strength. Suddenly balance improves, power transfers cleaner, and footwork holds up even when tired. That's not changing boxing, that's upgrading the engine. Balance training alone would shift everything. Learning to strike while off-center, recover while moving. Stay dangerous when the base isn't perfect. That kind of control turns small mistakes into recoverable moments instead of disasters. Then there's combination diversity, mixing levels, even conceptually trains the brain to think beyond patterns. Rhythm improves, timing sharpens. Reactions get faster because the body learns to transition, not stall. And mobility ties it all together. Fewer injuries, longer careers, less wear on joints that were never designed to be stiff under repeated force. This isn't criticism, it's evolution. Some of the most dangerous fighters in history borrowed from outside their lane. They stayed curious, they adapted, and they lasted. So the real question isn't should boxers train like kickboxers, it's why wouldn't they take what works. Kickboxers don't train harder, they train smarter, turning their entire body into a weapon that holds up under chaos. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.